I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
I'm Coach Margaret.
And today we're going to be looking at the powerful effects of attachment.
Indeed, yes.
Now, if you've been on my channel for any length of time, you'll hear me talking about attachment and breakups. And, well, there's a very important reason for that. Our early attachment with our caregivers has a direct relationship on the rest of our life.
It does.
And the more that they study this and the more that they research it, the more they find. And it's absolutely incredible. And, you know, Margaret and I, we like to research stuff and we find this kind of stuff interesting.
So we're going to share it.
And so it's important to understand attachment, okay? Not only for trying to get your ex back, but you have to understand what's going on within you.
Yes.
Because if you don't understand why you act the way you do, why you behave the way you do in your romantic relationships, you're going to continue to do it blindly and really destroy future relationships.
Yes.
Okay? So you have two choices. You can learn, educate yourself, and improve and grow now, and then not only have a much better chance of getting your ex back, or you can keep making the same mistakes with your ex or new people.
And that's why we keep talking about mental health issues and attachment over and over again.
It's directly correlated.
Yes.
Okay? So I have a really interesting article that was called Love Makes Your Brains, or Baby's Brain Bigger. Okay? Neglect, abuse, and trauma kill billions of brain cells. And this research is by somebody that is extremely highly respected in the field.
Yes.
Probably the top dog, right? I would say.
One of them. Yeah, one of them, certainly.
And his name is Alan Shore. And I'll sit and watch videos by him and learn about him. You guys probably don't have any interest in that, but I'm always looking to help
if you do,
you guys in all the different areas. But so I'll just read from the article, and then Margaret and I will share our personal thoughts.
Okay.
So at the top of the article, it shows a picture of two different babies' brains, and you'll notice that one brain is considerably larger than the other.
Yes.
And what happens here might shock you, okay? So it says, the child whose brain appears on the left had a caregiver who consistently loved, cared for, responded to, and interacted positively with them. The child who was on the right was neglected, ignored, and abused. Obviously, the one that was bigger was the one that was on the left on the picture.
Yes.
The child on the right will grow into an adult who is less intelligent, less able to empathize with others, more likely to become addicted to drugs and involved in violent crime, and to develop mental and other serious health problems. Okay, and that was an article that was published in 2012. Okay, apparently neurologists were just beginning to understand exactly how a baby's interaction with their mother determine how the brain grows or doesn't grow. This is critical. Yes. And this all happens, I believe, in the first 2 to 3 years, right?
Earlier than that, even.
Yeah. One of the leading neurologists in this field is Alan Shore, who we mentioned earlier, okay? Right. And I have found his stuff personally fascinating.
I have as well.
And I'd love to go to one of his lectures one time.
Yes, it'd be great.
The growth of the baby's brain literally requires positive interaction between mother and an infant. The development of cerebral circuits depend upon it. Okay?
So this is not just an old wives' tale.
No.
No.
This is from somebody that is very highly regarded.
And this is a neuroscientist,
Yeah.
yes.
He emphasizes the first 2 years of life as the most crucial of brain development, as 80% of the brain cells a person will ever have are manufactured during that period.
Right. So pick up that baby. Talk to that baby. Interact with that baby.
Right. And this is why we always say you never leave a kid in a crib to cry it out. Ever.
Right.
You pick that child up, and you can never spoil a baby. And I will argue with anybody till the end of time if you believe it.
Yeah, right.
You absolutely cannot spoil an infant.
No.
They're just incapable of it.
And an infant cannot manipulate you. And I, to this day, hear people saying that. If you pick them up when they cry, they're going to cry all the time to get you to pick them up. Mm-hmm. Well, that would be good, because their job at this point is to attach, and so is yours.
Yes.
Okay? But don't leave them to cry it out, or they're going to think that they're alone in this world. And
Yes.
they can easily turn out to be narcissists who give up on other people altogether.
And their mental health depends upon it.
Yeah.
And believe me, if you have a child, you give that child as much attention and love as humanly possible.
That's right.
For those first 2 to 3 years of life, and their life is going to be smooth sailing.
Right.
Okay? It's going to be so much easier for them with their mental health, for their ability to attach
yes.
to others,
Yes.
to communicate,
Yes.
to trust. Everything stems from those first 2 years of life.
But you think about a chaotic family that's, think of the dysfunctional family I described to you. But think about a chaotic family with a bunch of kids, all of them having various difficulties, and a new baby comes along, and it's very easy not to have the time. But it's tragic if you don't. Okay?
Yep.
And we would get referrals all the time about babies being left in cribs, and we would have to go out and investigate.
Horrible.
Yes, it's horrible. And now, at least there are some early intervention programs where a team of people will come in and try and help mom learn how to do it, because she may not have any idea how you do it. And those programs are promising, and I hope they will be funded, because it will make an enormous difference.
Infants understand far more than you could possibly
we
imagine.
used to think they had no idea. They used to talk about infants having what they called a stimulus barrier. We could not have been more wrong.
Yep.
Now, in my generation, back in the Middle Ages, everybody looked at Dr. Spock. And Dr. Spock said, don't pick up your crying baby. Let the baby cry it out. And that'll toughen them up, and they'll learn how to handle frustration. No, it will teach them to feel that they're alone in this world. Okay?
And not only that,
Yeah.
they won't be able to soothe their own anxiety.
Right.
They'll be depressed, and babies do get depressed.
Oh, they do. Yes. Yes. And since there's been a change in what Medicaid will fund now for early intervention, and there are studies that indicate that babies can be depressed. And I happened to go to a conference one time where they showed some videos that were just wonderful and inspiring. And there was one about a kid named Little Max. And little Max had been in the hospital too long after he was born, so he was despondent by then. Mm-hmm. And he would lie in his bed, in his crib, and just look at the wall. And they showed the early intervention folks, and mother didn't know what to do. And they showed the early intervention folks coming in with red balloons and red balls. Apparently he liked red. And over time, they're getting him to begin to interact. And then, of course, he began to interact with his mother. And probably little Max was saved from a disaster.
Yep.
But it took a good deal of intervention. And if you don't teach mom how to do it, there's very little else you can do. Some of this also comes on the heels of what they call the ACE studies. And that came out 5-6 years ago, maybe even a little more. And it was a long-term study that people had done. ACE stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And they've done a lot of it with the kind of information that you have here. Mm-hmm. And what happens to the children who are not stimulated sufficiently, and they list the probabilities of what will happen to them: addiction, violent crime, and all of those things.
Yes.
And I've heard in the field, even to this day, people trying to discount, well, kids don't even remember, this is all ridiculous. No, it isn't.
No, it isn't.
No, it isn't.
You absolutely want to take care of that child and interact with them consistently as often as possible.
Yes.
Okay? You never want them to cry it out. They feel like they're dying.
Yeah.
They feel like you would feel if somebody dropped you off in the middle of the woods and said, "See you later.
Yeah.
Goodbye."
And not only that, if the baby has gas is excruciating to an infant.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you or I having gas.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay. Absolutely important, not only to understand what's going on with you in your own life, but why your partner can't attach as well or why they struggle. And so, you guys will sit there and tell me in a Skype, they had a wonderful childhood. No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
No, they
That's right.
didn't.
And when we say no, they didn't, we're not trying to be smart Alex. But, I will often say to people, so what do you know about your early life? And sometimes people know and sometimes they don't.
Yep.
But you can kind of guess if they're struggling with relationships and other major life issues that it didn't go all that well. The good news is there's always something that can be done about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why we say you got to talk about it. You got to do the work. Putting a story to it is always helpful.
Absolutely. Write your own life story if you can.
And that's one of the things that you'll do in the workbooks is you're constantly reevaluating the past to evaluate what happened and how to change things. But let me go on with this article. What it says, from the beginning of the third trimester of a pregnancy to the 24th month of life, the human brain more than doubles in size, but only if it gets the right positive experiences. There is something the human brain needs in terms of contact with other humans for it to grow. Throughout the first 2 years of life, brain cells and their wiring are established, closing down connections that are seldom or never used and reinforcing the ones that are often used.
Yes.
The connections that are not used die off. It's a use it or lose it situation. Cells that fire together, wire together, and do not die together. The brain does not continue to grow and grow and grow. It organizes, then disorganizes, then reorganizes. The disorganization of the brain, the massive death of billions of neurons, and the disconnection of synapses is part of how the brain is growing and it's recognizing or reorganizing.
What's a synapse?
You tell us, Margaret. You probably remember when they first discovered them.
Yeah, the disorganization of the brain, the massive death of billions of neurons, and disconnection of synapse. A synapse, I think, is an electrical current that connects. That connects things.
Yeah.
So we don't want to disable that in any way.
No.
Just in case synapse was not commonly in your vocabulary. Okay.
The hormones generated by the relationship between the infant and the mother or the primary caregiver affect the way the genes are encoded.
Absolutely.
We know now for a fact that the endorphins regulate genes positively.
Wow, so if you have happy endorphins, you're going to have happier genes. Wow.
We also know that cortisol, a stress hormone, also regulates genes.
So if you're a stressed baby, wow, it's going to affect your genes. And if you're a happy baby, it's going to affect your genes.
Incredible, isn't it?
Wow.
This is why emotionally enriched, positive environments are key for infants. Joining with the child to co-regulate high levels of positive emotion like joy, interest, and excitement during the first 2 years literally sets the tone for the rest of their lives.
Right.
And so, one of the things that I learned, when I was watching his videos is how part of the mother's job, or the father's, or the caregivers,
or whoever it
is
is,
to upregulate the baby's emotions
Right.
when they're sad, and also to soothe the baby when they're anxious and upset.
Or excited, or
So you have to be good at both, okay? The baby's sad, you got to play with it, clap, dance, sing, whatever to get the baby, going and excited again. And then if it's sad and crying and upset about something, maybe it's hurting or hungry, you got to regulate that too, because that is what they internalize for the rest of their life.
For the rest
and
of their
this
life.
means a secure adult.
Right.
So for those of you that are parents or want to be parents, this is incredibly powerful.
And you see much in the literature about people not being able to self-soothe or self-regulate. Now, if you didn't get what you should have gotten when you were a baby, and it's literally when you were a baby,
Yes.
then you have to learn intellectually later how to do this. And it's ever so much harder. It can be done, but people get very angry and frustrated at people who aren't able to do it. Criminals, people we call borderline, etc. But they were never taught to do it.
Yep.
Nor were they taught to experience the positive emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this I cannot stress to you enough in the importance. If you're in any kind of early baby's life,
Yep.
as a friend, as a parent, as a neighbor, as an
Anybody.
aunt, whatever,
Yeah.
you always want to encourage that parent to pick that child up, show them literature, show them videos on YouTube, and let them know that those first 2 years, 3 years are absolutely critical for them to develop and become a healthy adult. And the more work they do in those first couple of years, the easier that baby's life is going to be when they become an adult.
One of the things I've heard often in talking with people is sometimes people appear to be in better shape than you might expect them to be, given the chaotic situation they grew up in. And I've learned to ask, who saved you? And I almost always get an answer. It was an aunt, it was the lady down the street, it was the babysitter who came in. There was somebody oftentimes who filled in when mom simply couldn't do it, not even through her fault, if things were too crazy. But yes, you can make an enormous difference in a baby's life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is powerful, powerful stuff. And we'll come back to it and discuss it more in the future. This is a topic that I find to be incredibly helpful to understand and directly correlated to relationships and attachment and, how to heal relationships.
Yes.
Okay, so if you want to get our help personally, just go to my website, askcraig.net, sign up for the coaching option that works best for you. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Margaret is also available for Skype coaching.
Yes, I would love to speak with you, and I can get you in fairly soon right now.
Just click on Margaret on the top of the website to do that. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
I'm Coach Margaret.
And we will talk with you soon.